is my really, really good friend. He's from New Zealand. We brought him all the way across the pond. And you don't like the word famous, I don't know. What word do you want to use?
Oh, I'm just God doing it my way.
Oh, okay. Well, I just say he's the most renowned psychic channeler in New Zealand. Everybody on that part of the world knows who Blair Styra is. And he channels an entity called Tabaash. And I've known you about 10 years. I think it has been 10 years when I first went to New Zealand, and he introduced me to New Zealand. We were doing talks and lectures together. And then it was 2010, I brought him over here to introduce him to America. So we did a tour of the United States. So we've done a lot of stuff together. And then you had to put things on hold for a while.
Correct, yeah.
And now I'm getting him back over here in America. But you're going to be in for quite a treat. But now he has finally written his book. I don't know how many years we've been after him to write his book. And we got it just hot off the press again. That's the problem. We're getting, all these books are coming down to the wire. We had to get them done in time for the conference. His book is Don't Change the Channel. I love that title. And he's going to be explaining about Tabaash and how all that happened.
Yes.
Okay, Blair Styra from New Zealand.
I'll just start off with a little Maori greeting, which is New Zealand indigenous language. And we go, tenekwa, tenekwa, tenekwa. A funny thing happened to me on the way to Arkansas. I was in the car in Wellington, and I was at the lights waiting to turn right to go to where I live. And all of a sudden, I looked down at my heart chakra, and I saw this line of light, and it just was emanating from me, and it was attached to a bus. And then I saw these other little lines of light come out, and then all these other lines attaching to all the people who were crossing over, and then to the buildings. And as I turned the car to drive, I just saw all the lines just moving, and as everybody moved, the line just moved. And I just suddenly realized, collective consciousness. That's it. We're just connected by these strands of life, strands of light. And it's just so simple, and this is a thing I've realized in 25 years of channeling spirit, that is actually really, really simple. You know, people have often said to me, you know, oh, is this a very difficult thing to do, or does it hurt? Questions like that. But at the end of the day, it's just really shifting my consciousness from one state of who I am, or one channel, so this is a channel, and I just go on to another channel. And that's often the way that I like to define channeling. It's a bit like being a radio or a television. You know, when you're focused on a particular station, that's the one that you're watching, that's the one that you're paying attention to, that gives you the information. But then, it doesn't mean all the other stations don't exist. They're just on different frequencies, different vibrations. So you just have to change the channel. Sometimes you don't want to change the channel. Sometimes you like that program so much that you want to keep watching it. And sometimes you want to watch it over and over and over again. And every time you're watching it over and over again, what are you doing but you're absorbing a vibration, a consciousness, and information. And you always see something that you never saw before, or heard before, or experienced before. And then, isn't it interesting how suddenly, oh, I don't need that anymore. And why is that? Because you got the information that you needed. And then it was time to change the channel, or change the station, or move away from that relationship, or move away from that job. But whatever it was, you outgrew that frequency to such a degree where you could no longer be in a relationship with that vibration. All of us here today are in a relationship this whole weekend. we've all on a one huge big date. We're all having dinner tonight. We're all here to embrace each other, mind, body, and spirit, in all the ways that we can, because we all put out a call somewhere along the road. And we heard that call, and that's why we're all here. In my experience with Tabaash, it's been the development of a relationship. I've evolved, I've grown in every way possible by my connection with spirit, with consciousness. It's a relationship that's forever developing. It never stops. It changes in all its different degrees. As I evolve, it evolves. At any moment, I can choose to put a pause button down. At any moment, I could flick the switch if I wanted to and decide, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But at the end of the day, it's just an agreement. And all of us have made an agreement to be something more authentic than what we are now. And so the subject of Tabaash's teaching today is to be your authentic self. When I channel spirit, I personally have no conscious memory what Tabaash says to people. So I move on to a different frequency. Over the years, Tabaash has developed the use of the body, so he uses it pretty much as if it's my own. So he can leap around, and he's exceedingly animated. He's very funny. Enjoy his vibration, his energy, his humor. I think when I look back on what he teaches, it's just good basic common sense in lots of ways. And I think that where we are now as human beings, that's actually what we need. We need this common sense. We need to stand in a place where everything that we are is pulled together in one point of consciousness. I'll bring Tabaash now through, so I'll just sit down. I'm not very good at bringing him through when I'm standing up, so I'll just sit down. Thank you. Hello. Imagine that if you borrowed someone's car, you had to get in the car and you had to shift the seat. And you had to get the seat belt so it could fit you. And you had to change the steering wheel so it could be adjusted to your way of driving. Well, that's what we have to do when we come into bodies. So when you see all those jerks and stuff like that, that's me adjusting the seat, and shifting the seat belt so I can have a safe ride. What is authenticity? It is indeed what you are. It is everything and more, for everything is forever expanding to be more, since nothing ever has an end. Interesting though, isn't it? That you are all in your own ways acknowledging that you are more, that you are everything, and yet some of you will try to be everything from a place which is less. So my question is, how can you be less when you are already more? And when I mean less, I mean your doubts, your fears, your worries, your concerns, your limited thoughts, things that are unresolved, vibrations that are counterproductive to who you are, mind, body, spirit. So if you always are creating from a point of more, then you never need to experience anything that is less. For you do not need to be involved in a vibration that is less. To be involved in a vibration that is more is quite frightening for some people. And that is often because it means, oh no, I have to be totally and absolutely responsible for the fact that it's me who did all of this. I created all of this reality. I'm accountable for everything, right down to the smallest, minutest particle of consciousness. And for some people, that's quite difficult. I created terminal cancer. I created my child's illness. I created a bad relationship, the loss of all my money. Yes, you did. But if you look at that only from the human nature part of you, then of course you will feel despair. Of course you will feel the emotions that bring you down. And that's very hard to accept. But if you see it from your God nature, well, that's a different story. From your God nature, you see it and feel it from the highest vibration. And therefore, something greater in you understands the journey, the bigger picture, as it has been called. You are alive at a time where everything is amplified in every way possible. Vibration is expanding in a manner which has never been before. And so as everything is expanded in its awareness, it means vibration changes. And as vibration changes, it changes everything. And that is why you are all feeling, thinking, experiencing, going through what you are going through, because your vibrations are changing. You are reaching for something higher, and it is your authentic self that is reaching for this. And as the authentic self reaches for this, it has to pass through your human nature. And as it passes through your human nature, it changes your vibrational frequency of your human nature too. So on a cellular level, you are feeding the body with more God power than ever before. If one imagines for a moment the cells of a body, and then imagine around the cell of a body. In fact, on your pieces of paper, draw a circle. That's a cell of your body. And then around that cell, draw another circle, a bigger one. Now that bigger circle is God's power. And every cell of the physical body is surrounded by that vibration. And the vibration of God's power around the cellular structure is vibrating, spinning. As it spins, it feeds the cells. And as the cells feed, it brings about well-being. The majority of human nature, physiologically, are in a portion of 70% God power, 30% human nature. Some people, of course, they slow the acceptance of the vibration of God into the cells down, and this is where God, nature, turns the light off in the bodies, and therefore the physical body becomes diseased. All of this, of course, is still the choice of those who are involved in whatever the experience is. And at any point, you have choice. And at this point in history, all beings are deciding, what shall I think? What shall I feel? What shall I be? What shall I do? How shall I choose to do the driving? How shall I create what it is I'm creating? Is it better not to decide what to create rather than resolve? Why focus on what is wrong when you are already God? For God only focuses on what is right. If you focus on what is right, then all of life's forces can be utilized in such a beneficial way. If you focus on, oh, I need to resolve first, or I need to work this through first, then of course you are putting pressure and tension onto yourself. If you are focusing on that which is counterproductive, then how can you see what is productive? I believe it is best to focus on what is always productive. And by doing so, that overwhelms counterproductivity. So in other words, you're just turning the light up. I've always liked to have defined enlightenment as to mean to be in light of life. So you're just going around with all the lights on. And when you have all the lights on, you can see everything. And when you don't, that's when you go bumping around in the dark and tripping over things. Because everything is always there. Nothing actually goes away. You don't actually get healed. You don't actually move away from anything. What you've done is your authentic self has instead raised its consciousness to a degree where you pay better attention. So you pay attention to the vibration that turns the light on. And as that vibration turns the light on, then anything you don't want to see, you know it's there, but you don't see it anymore. At this point, humans are doing a lot of positioning. You are recognizing, this is my responsibility. I am accountable. But I do not have to put up with this. So imagine in front of me, here is my bad relationship. Oh, I know it's there, but I'm just going to take it. I'm going to put it over there instead. And that way it's not going to get in the way. I know it's there. I know at times it will speak to me. It will try to get me over and have dinner with me. And sometimes I might acquiesce and go, oh yes, I'm hungry, because you get hungry for what was, because that's the appetite you got used to. But then eventually, as you get stronger, you lose the appetite for that. And you know that it's there, and you go, oh, look, sorry, I don't have an appetite for you anymore. I've created something better. So your attention's on that rather than that. So I believe if you want to change anything, physically, mentally, spiritually, first and foremost, make peace with it and then let it be there. Yeah, you have a place, but that's where I keep you, and that's where you stay. And then instead you focus on what you choose to be productive, and you position it in the way that you wish. And you're all repositioning, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So when you do this from your point of authenticity, you are doing it from the point that has all the answers, that has all the knowledge, that holds all the understanding of all of consciousness. For you are all consciousness. You are defining yourself individually by your ideas of yourself, but your authentic self is consciousness. And it's this consciousness that you are feeding into. And it's this consciousness that is speaking to you individually and asking of you as individuals what you wish to say, what your voices are. And you're finding this through all the books that you write, the modalities that you get involved in, the lives that you are living, the day-to-day stuff. It's all essential that you pay attention to this from your authenticity. For if you do not, then you will get very tired. And collectively, and it's so beautiful to say this, humanity has turned a corner. So you're not heading towards a bad place. If you really sit still and listen to the joy that is in life, the harmony that is actually around, the beauty that is there, the love that is there, despite the madness that is going on, you can feel God. You can see God. You can experience the energy, the lightness that is all pervading through this planet at this point. Everything, of course, through history has cycles. And the cycles are prevalent right from the beginning of this planet. There are cycles where there are what humans have called dark cycles, ones that are called light cycles. We're moving back into the light. And a good way of imagining it would be, I am the center of consciousness. I am the light. And everything evolves around me. So if you imagine you're all the same, And everything just spins. And you have its own little individual spin as much as the collective spin. And then through your development, physiologically, mentally, spiritually, you can take yourself out of orbit sometimes. And as you get out of orbit, even though you have a link with source power, you're away from the light a bit. So as you get away from the light vibration, then your vibration starts to shift. So you're not accessing so much clear information from source power. And then as you evolve and grow and do whatever you need to do, you get closer back in, so you get caught back into that orbit. And so through history, on this planet, through the collective deeds of humanity, it's thrown the collective cycle away from the light. So if you look through history, you can see that there were the Dark Ages. You can see periods where there were a lot of wars, periods where there were also great evolution and medicines and peace and harmony and art, creativity, etc. As I always say, life without God doesn't make sense. Because how can you have life without the power source? So as you blend into the concept of your lightness, then you realize that staying in that orbit makes a lot of sense. Interesting, at the moment, when I look at humanity as a collective, there's a huge percentage that are spinning in this high velocity, but then there are those that are not. And so as you've all discovered, sometimes you collide with these vibrations. And this collision comes about by just minor things, discrepancies with people that you know. Or places that you think, I just can't live here anymore. Or I just can't think that anymore, or do that anymore. And so what you're doing is you're recognizing quite specifically what you're outgrowing, what you're no longer resonating to as individuals. So by doing this, you create what I shall call a culling. So you're moving away from some people. You're moving away naturally from old ideas about yourself. You're moving away from certain vibrations that your physiological system can no longer sustain. And it's telling you this every day. It's saying it to you, please don't smoke anymore. Or could you stop drinking? Or could you not eat like that now? Could you drink more water? Could you exercise in this fashion? So your bodies are being heard, or are they? So remember, you have a formula that you're involved in here. And the formula of life on this planet is mind, body, spirit. So when you find the appropriate way of feeding those vibrations, then you will have an alignment that allows your authenticity to flow through unconditionally. So follow the formula each day. Feed your mind, feed your body, feed your spirit. And it doesn't have to be the same way. Each day is unique in its vibration. You are unique in your vibration each day. As your authentic self, you have your own code. You have your own unique code that is unlike anyone else's. And that's why nothing can be replicated truly. It's so unique in its vibration. You have your own password. It can't be changed. And no one can access it either. To access it, though, in the way that you really want to, you have to understand, I have to do this from my authentic place. In my authenticity, I will vibrate to the highest frequency, the highest vibration. I'm going to jump off the stage. Sorry, Dolores. I like to wander. Hello. How are you?
I'm great.
You have a really buzzy energy. I was looking at that before. But you get too much into here sometimes. And you little doubt. You know you want to take the step, but then you step back. And also, too, you've been too influenced by other people sometimes. Other people's inspirations, other people's ideas, other people's negativities. This is more from your past. And so, but you broke that cycle. But like I said before about positioning things, you just need to realize, oh, that's still in the way sometimes. So you have to take and go, no, just put that over there. So you've got a lot of positioning to do at this particular point. Bit of a cleaning up. They show it to me like a broom. You're just sweeping things away, basically, see. So trust your instincts. They do serve you well when you follow them through. Have more faith in your ideas. Don't get too caught up into what you think you should do. Look at more what you feel. Because as someone said this morning, thoughts will only take you so far. You know, you have to engage in the feeler part of you invariably. So that's what your energies are needing to do at this point. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
That's good. I make sense. It's good to be validated. If you look at freedom, you're all wanting freedom from what was. And you want freedom from what was because you played that role, and that's a role that's just not relevant anymore. It doesn't mean that that role's wrong. It just means, well, it's not relevant anymore. So you begin to seek for that which makes your mind sing, your body sing, your spirit sing. And so, but you're all composing your own vibrations all the time. And that's a great thing about being God. You can come up with any tune you like. You can dance to your own tune, as they say. And so, it's your freedom tune, basically, you see. You've got a nice vibration. You're a good healer. I honor you for what you do for people. It's good. Are you conscious of your mother around you at all? Yeah, because her spirit's just very close, you see. She had her problems, this soul, you know. And also, too, she felt that her issues affected you. And she is very regretful of that. But she knows that you made peace. So that was the most important thing. But you actually served her well towards the end there. So that was good. So you carry that very strong in your heart. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Makes me cry. I just wanted to think about that. Freedom from what was allows you to be in a position of where you are, which of course is the present. And the present is the place where all points of life converge as one. So when you stand in the present, you're simply in the place where, oh, the light's shining on me. And when that light shines on you, then you have to decide what you're going to do with that light vibration. Interesting, isn't it, though? People can get caught up too much in what was over there as opposed to what's now, or they got focused on what's going to be. So you can get too distracted into the past or get too distracted into the future. But the future only exists as an idea, and so does the past. So what's the most important thing right now that every being is involved in? Listening to me. How exciting. But then, if we're all each other, then you're just listening to yourself. So think about that for a moment. You so loved yourself that you created me. You so loved yourself that you created each other. And it really is like that. Now, if you take the power of that and what that really means in consequences to Earth and what's going on in history, you're all carrying within you this authentic point of consciousness that is creation. And you are all involved in creation. And you need to think that way, and you need to feel that way, and in your own ways, you need to find how you can live that every day. And you don't need to work it or sort it or figure it. You just need to stand in that position of the present and then make the choice. And this can be so easy and so simple. Oh, I'll just be God doing it that way. I mean, think about it from that point. In the past, you were just God doing it that way. Now you're God doing it this way. And tomorrow you'll be God doing it that way. And so, if you move away from the layers of trying to understand and move instead into the core of knowing, then it changes the dynamics of what you feel and what you see and what you can make possible. But possible is only possible because of what you decide. It isn't about what's out there for you to learn. It's more with where I'm standing, What can I make possible? So you start off in, I have to go up here now. I won't jump up. And water. You have to decide from your personal vantage point what makes sense to you. And what makes sense to you will be based on what your life is all about at the moment. Who's in your life at the moment? The jobs that you have, the things you're involved in. And all of that is a vibration that's created a formula that's influencing you through your decisions. And if you're paying a lot of attention to that in a nice, peaceful way, then what you're able to do is just make better arrangements. So that's where the positioning, you see, comes into that. And so instead of I got rid of and all that sort of stuff, no. I just shift the furniture around. Gives me a different look. So you don't have to redecorate your whole life. Sometimes you just need to turn the blinds the other way around. What did Blair's mates do when they were young? When they couldn't find socks, they just turned them inside out and put the same ones on, thinking that they were clean. I suppose that's what people do sometimes. They just turn their lives inside out and put the same one back on again and think, oh, well, it's all better. But of course, all that itchy, dirty grime is still in there. All joking aside, it is a serious time in the history. It's a serious time within yourself. But one's got to remember that as souls, you did make the decision to be alive at such a time so that you could feel and think and be and do what you are presently involved in. But also, you're at a time where you are creating what's new. And you all have a part in this. You're all writing the story about the future all the time. And because each of you in your own ways have embraced the idea of God, embraced the idea of source power, then you realize that you linked up with all those other souls on this planet who are doing the same thing. And you are being fed information as much as you're emitting information. And as that information goes out, it's opening up more and more of the portals of experience and information that's now being made available to people. Because collectively, you have to have a certain vibration for allowing this to happen. And that's why you can't push fast forward. You have to transcend time. And as you transcend time, then you live in consciousness. There was a man thousands of years ago. His name was Hermes. He was not the Egyptian, he was not the Greek god. He was an Egyptian sage. And he put it in this way. He wrote something called the Coptic Hermeticum. And I won't quote it word for word verbatim because it's a bit archaic. But the general gist of it is to understand how consciousness works, to understand how God works, you have to be that very vibration. For like will attract like. You have to conceive of the idea that you are each other, that you are every thought, every feeling, every experience. You have to conceive of the idea that you are the sky, you are the ground, the trees and the animals, the waterways. You are every sensation and every experience. You are all of the elements. You are alive. You are in spirit. You are not yet born. And as he ended, but if you abase yourself by denying this fact, then what do you have to do with God? So to know how it works, you have to be it all. There is simple truth. If you seek for greater enlightenment, then already make the decision, well, I am already in light of life. I am already healed. I am already in a harmonious, aligned place. I am free. I am everything. Just look to the person next to you if you can. And just think for a moment that that's just me. That's not a stranger. That's me. And remember, your response to your other person tells you a lot about yourself. That's how it works. Your response to life tells you about yourself. Your response to another person tells you about yourself. It's not about anybody else. You only put those there or them there so that you could feel something or think something or do something, because you needed to think that and feel that and do that. It gave you a level of awareness about yourself. That's what you're doing. You're always seeking for a level of awareness that you didn't have before. And every day when you wake up, you give yourself a chance of your life, and every day you look for the awareness of that day. Who am I today? And how will I find myself reflected in the day? What way is the world speaking to me? A good thing, if you like, when you wake up in the morning, is to ask yourself, today, what is the best way to be my authentic self? And then just see what you get. And it might say, be happy. Or it might say, cook some nice food. I'll just use him as an example. I always do this. One day he asked that question, and he got, be conscious of spirit. So all through the day, he was going, I am God, being conscious of spirit. And I always say, try to recognize the signals, the little way that the world's speaking to you, to remind you of that. After he finishes his work, he went up this place where he sits in the sun, at the back of his house, and he was just sitting there, and he was looking around, he was thinking, I am God, being a conscious of spirit. And then he was thinking, I wonder what the signal is going to be. Well, anyway, with that, this woman walks by on her mobile, and she was just chatting to a friend. And as she walks by Blair, she just goes to her friend, well, that's very spiritual, isn't it? And then carries on. And a lot of people would go, whoa. But he thought, oh yeah, okay, there's my message. I mean, he laughed. All the time, world's saying something to you, is asking you, at your request, to pay attention. So, what do you choose to request? What do you request in your life? Choose something. The power of communication, perhaps. I'm sorry. I know you don't like being put on the spot. And yet, isn't it interesting? Because you like to be in your little space sometimes. And yet you choose to sit right in the front where everyone notices you. That's okay. Do you believe you can make all the changes that you want? I mean, really believe?
Yes.
Even though there are people who don't believe in you?
Yes.
Yeah. And even though you're still in conflict with those people? Yes. How do you feel about that tug of war that's going on? You must be exhausted. It's been going on for some time.
Yes.
Yeah. And yet, who's creating it to go on for some time? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, it doesn't mean you suddenly have to shift everything. But look at your choices. And look at the simple things that you can do and can change. The little things that start to make a difference. Otherwise, it just overwhelms you. And you feel so tired from all this emotion stuff. And so it's about allowing yourself to decide, right, now, I'm going to be God being freer. And so you just open up the heart energy. And then start listening to little ways that God energy is speaking to you. But you've got a lot of dismantling to do. It's not a bad thing. But you also carry other people's stuff too much. You're a big storage area for other people's vibrations. And it's all free too. No wonder they come into your energies. So, will you break that cycle? The old emotional cycle, the old way of thinking? Do you think you can be free?
I journey to do that. Good, good. Now you say, yes, Tabaash, I am.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. See, it's not about I'm trying to do this, or I hope to do this, or maybe I will do this. Remember, even if you don't feel it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, yes, I'm God. Of course I will do that. What else could I possibly do? And that really is it. That's the best platform to launch yourself from. Otherwise, you'll just get so caught up into the human nature of it. And remember, what you're doing is basically evolving away from the idea of your human nature as your basic nature. And you're moving into a place where you are now understanding it is your God nature that is your basic nature. And then when you launch yourself from your God nature, then in all your authenticity, you can go out there and live the most productive place possible. All that counterproductivity doesn't come into it because you don't need to relate to that vibration. If you don't relate to that vibration, then everything makes greater sense. So you have all the lights on, you see things faster. You see things clearer. You see things in a way and you go, oh, it was always there in the first place. Now, why didn't I see it before? Well, it didn't have the light on. So everything that you're involving yourself in your self-development, is the development of all of yourselves. And all of those selves that you are, because remember, you are everywhere, you're not just here. So you have to go to all of those selves and turn the lights on. Okay, that's going to take an awful long time, when you consider how many of yourselves there are. So that's why if you just stand in one space and just go to the mains, you just push one button, the light's on. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, long road. And yet, even if some souls, I just need some water. Even if some souls choose to have a long road, that's not wrong. If some souls choose to not switch the lights on, that's fine too. They're just God doing it that way. And yet, it's interesting that you just can't not see what's going on. You can't not feel what's going on. But you still, as a soul, you have to acknowledge your own ideas. You have to venture into your own concepts. And you need to question carefully your concepts and your habits and ask of yourself, does this actually work for me now? Does this really serve me now? And if you see it doesn't, please don't think, that's wrong, I better get rid of that. No, it's about, that's there. And that's why I always believe that you need to show a high level of gratitude to everything. Because everything is of source power. Everything is God. So when you acknowledge that everything has its uses, then it makes it easier for you to position that differently. Things happen that you don't like because you didn't pay attention in some way. So you've created a situation that gets your attention. And it will keep on getting your attention until you change it. And if you don't change it, well then you'll either die or you lose your money or whatever happens. And that to me seems a bit of an extreme way to have to learn a lesson. And you don't need to go through the extremes. And this is the interesting thing, is that if you look at the way the world is, it's going through a lot of extremes of change and growth. But your soul isn't. Your soul's not going through any extremes. Your soul's just doing what it's always done. And so as the walls of extremities fall off the soul, then this is where more of the soul, more of the authentic self shines through. And then it just becomes so much easier. And you don't have to sort of kick through the pile of life, because as the vibration and all its authenticity moves naturally and lovingly away from you, it just disperses itself into consciousness and becomes energy in different forms. The title of this conference, Transformation Conference. You're here because in some way you wish to be transformed. But there is no outcome. There's always just life. And I think people can get very involved in the idea of an outcome. Where are we heading? I would always say, where do you want to go? when you are out in spirit and you make the decision to be alive again, you are shown all the futures that you could possibly experience, because you will have many. And so when you were born, you did not come with a destiny. You came with many, many futures. And as you are born and your life unfolds, and as you evolve your own understanding as opposed to the understanding of other people, then you begin to see where you choose to fit in to the idea of your futures. And you start to get a sense of where you wish to be directed to. And then suddenly, something changes that transforms your idea of you and your future. And you realize that wasn't your future at all. You have another one. And so it continues to happen. But what's happening is, as souls are blending together more in God nature, you're pulling together all the future ideas that all represent the complete sense of well-being in mind and body and spirit. And it's this energy that's coming to you now. So you're pulling your whole vibration in. All those energies that is all your successes and all your happinesses and whatever it is, it's just all massing together. And all the, what I call misery gut stuff, is just filtering out because it can no longer sustain a hold on to you. So as you expand that God energy, you pull your authenticity in, and that denser vibration just goes away. And all you've needed to do is stand still and be present and be God and decide. Simply decide. What shall I think? What shall I feel? What shall I be? What shall I do? What shall I create? How do I choose to participate? What makes sense to me? What feels authentic to me? Wherever you are is where you place yourself. And wherever you place yourself, you are involved in the vibration of that place, be it where you sit, be it the country you live in, state you live in. Wherever you are in the world, your God nature, your soul said, right, I need to be there because that offers up a lot for me. And many of you have traveled into different places, so your soul has offered you the opportunity to experience vibration in those places. And what you've done is you've awoken another aspect of yourself, or you've fed an aspect of yourself because of your exposure to that vibration. And some of it, you didn't even know you were doing it. But now, you start to remember, you start to recognize, that's what that was all about. I need to return there. For as you bring this vibration in more, you're creating a new plan. So it's like these tendrils of light that are coming in. And as they come in, they blend together, move within your system, and then invariably become the experiences that will become the future that you so desire. If you are to be authentic, you start by validating yourself as well. It's so important to validate. For validation is a way of acknowledging the vibrations that are around you. You are not weak people. You are not limited. You are free, and you are being presented with more choices now than ever before. You are in a tug of war with simply what was. And you cannot be involved in a vibration that was when you have evolved into something different. You can try to fit into what was, but it doesn't work. because you've expanded everything about you to a high degree. And so one must leave behind what was, so that you know the energy of what is. And by knowing the energy of what is, common sense prevails. And that is your platform for establishing what can be. As I spoke before of the formulas, it's worldwide, it's universal, it's mind, it's body, it's spirit. It's a cyclic thing. I always like to give this little prayer. I'd like you all to repeat this, because it's a very powerful, powerful thing to say in a collective energy. Some of you have heard this before. Say this with powerful intention, please. From the Lord God of my being, I now choose to be totally liberated, mind, body, and spirit, of all that limits me, of all I am attached to, that no longer serves me, of all I am addicted to, that does not profit me. I ask forgiveness of all people I have hurt in my life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive all who have hurt me in my life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive myself for all the ways I have hurt myself, for all the times I did not pay enough attention in my life, in any life, in any way at all. And now I choose to be at peace. Always. So be it. Bravo. That was good. How did that feel? Affirmations are good when you feel them. They don't do so well if you keep them in your head. If you think for a moment, and you could write this down on your pieces of paper, and then in whatever way you want to do what you want to do with it, just choose one quality that you know you possess. And you know that this one quality would transform your life if you practiced it. There's your homework. One quality. Everybody has more than one, but just choose one. One vibration, one energy. I need to give you a big hug. You need a hug. I just want to say, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. Care in your heart. Hi, Dolores. We meet in some really interesting places, don't we? A greater moment does not have to be found. A greater moment is with you always. And a greater moment always has to be lived. Don't put up with a thing, because putting up only puts you down. You've got to stand up and be what you are and face that light. Facing that light makes you realize you will never be small. You are always going to be tall. For that is your authenticity. And you can never be anything else but what you are as God. Find ways of living it and practicing it. And know that you are never alone, ever. And never have been. Don't worry so much. You worry so much. And you know your worry gets you into that fear place. And that fear place makes you quite grumpy, actually. You get into this sort of place. And then you shut people off when you do that. And then people go, what's wrong? And you go, nothing. And then you get into, oh, nobody cares. No one understands me. And you started it all in the first place. So you start it, you can finish it, right? Yes? You will do that? Oh, we'll watch. Oh, well, I better go. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I'll bring Blair back into his body. Bye. Hello. I hope you had a good time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dolores.